Monica in Warrenton, Virginia. Monica, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Hi. My issue is certainly not as weighty as the one you just spoke of, but issue nevertheless. Chinatown, I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Yes, Chinatown,
Kojo,
yes.
It has been built up very nice. We have restaurants there, and I would like to take my out-of-town visitors down there to enjoy some of these new activities. However, I discovered last year that there are throngs of young people down there at night. They're just on the streets. I don't know what they're doing, but I think there's been at least 2 incidents reported in the Post where there were some fights and even a killing on the near the metro in that area. My question is, what are the candidates going to do about this problem? They're going to drive away the tourists. I don't know why those children are there. There's no homes nearby for them to live in. There's nothing for them to do.
Monica, I do have to say that it's called hanging out. That's what they go down there to do. It's become the place for young people to go to hang out. But as Monica has pointed out, there have been some problems there, and she'd like to know what you would do about it, Tom Brown.
Well, thank you, Monica, so much for this question. I can tell you what I'm already doing, and you can tell me if this kind of thing is something you would look for. Over the past almost 2 years, I started a program. It's called Biz and Hoops, and I targeted Friday nights or Saturday nights where most young people hang out. And I started an athletic league, primarily basketball, at different gyms around the city. And I've recruited young people right off the street corner, basically between the ages of 16 to 24. And when they come there, they bring all their friends, and we have referees, and it's a real league with trophies and all. But also at my league, I'm occupying them on late Friday nights, so the Metropolitan Police Department really appreciates this effort, by the way. And I'm also introducing them to options. I have Community College of the District of Columbia, OIC, Potomac Job Corps, and other partners to come there just to share the different services in post-secondary and trade and university training that they can get into that maybe they won't walk into during the day. But if I set them up to pack a gym on a Friday night and stay out of trouble, they hear about some life-changing opportunities. And so I put those two together. That's why we call it Biz and Hoops. And so I've been doing that and usually we have about 200 to 300 young people per community when we do this kind of thing. So that's the kind of things I believe in initiating.
Dorothy Douglas, same question to you.
Well, the question is that the problem is that they need employment. Employment is really what's the key issue here. You have to give some young kids, the young youth, some employment. That's another issue to keep them off the street. I work with the 6th District Conflict Resolution Team. We do the same thing as Mr. Brown does. We get the youth together and get them involved in basketball, different recreations, all play among themselves and keep them off the street. But they need a little bit more, so they're crying out for help. We need to come together as a partnership in business to make sure that they have wraparound services so they can be able to let that steam off. So they have to have somewhere to let the steam off. The recreation, they used to have nighttime basketball. So those are things that need to put back into the community a little bit more so they can come out and have something to release that pressure that they have on themselves. So we as our residents ourselves and also you, we can come together to make sure that we have some service that's available for them. Get them involved with things, helping senior citizens, community services. And so those are the things we need to help and also start their own small businesses. So there's so many things that we need to do as a whole, as a family, because it takes a village to raise a family, and we need to continue to do that process to make sure that they're going in the right direction.
Alan Page.
Right. I saw Chief Lanier speak, and one of the things she mentioned was that 46% of the violent crime arrests this year have been juveniles. So it's a smaller part of a larger issue. Specifically in terms of Gallery Place Chinatown, I think one of the things we might want to pursue, which reflects some work that I'm doing in a nonprofit called One Common Unity, where I sit on the board of directors. They teach. They give peace training to young people in the city, at-risk youth in the city, and they also teach them, they call it training the trainers, they teach them how to give peace training to their peers. So one of the things I think we might want to look at is hiring teen ambassadors who are trained to mediate conflict, to basically be posted around the area, and so they can mediate conflict with their peers, because the young people in the city are the ones who are most familiar with the the affiliations, the crew affiliations, and the other signs that a conflict is rising to a level of concern. So I think that's one of the things we might want to work with. More foot and bike patrols for Metropolitan Police Department. There would have a more nimble response time to any issues, and community policing. Just really one of the things I support on a macro level is getting more of the police officers, whether through tax incentives or through bonus pay incentives, to move back into the district so they're more familiar with the local population. They know the kids because those kids are their neighbors.
They won't be able to afford their condos down at Gallery Place.
Alan Page is a Statehood Green Party candidate for the D.C. Council. He joins us in studio along with the Democratic candidates, two Democratic candidates, Dorothy Douglas and Tom Brown. Our resident analyst is Tom Sherwood. He's an NBC4 reporter and a columnist for the current newspapers. Before I go back to you, Tom, I want to get to one more phone call, because all of you, if you are elected, will be having to work with Mayor Vincent Gray and Chairman Kwame Brown. Our caller, Susan, has apparently a view of Mayor Vincent Gray, and I'd probably be interested in hearing how you respond to that. Susan, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. I'm a D.C. resident, and look, I admit it, I was a huge Fenty supporter, but I was one of those people that was willing to give Mayor Gray the benefit of the doubt. And all I can say is I'm holding my tongue now not to say I told you so. And I think that all of this protesting about the rights of D.C. is all terrific. However, maybe we need to merit the respect by not being corrupt and hiring for large salaries our relatives and those sorts of things. I've lived here for 18 years, and I'm going to tell you, this is really starting to look like the bad old days. And it's very, very disheartening. And for me, that's kind of the absolute number one issue. By the way, I couldn't disagree more about Michelle Rhee either.
Okay.
I think that she was terrific.
Thank you very much for your call. Tom Sherwood, is there anything you'd like to footnote what Susan said before we pass it on to the candidates?
In terms of this, I was interviewed by the New York Times just doing a story about the city. And because, the Gray, a lot of white people who didn't vote for Vince Gray because either they didn't know him or they believed the Fenty campaign that he was a throwback to the Barry era. Because of the controversy over the hiring, the SUV issue that only tangentially touched Gray, those types of things, it has worsened the racial divide in the city. And I think it's up to the mayor to show. He went out of his way to show, put Kaya Henderson in, who is well liked by all the establishment education people, is one thing. Very big hurdle now to overcome the tone of voice you just heard in the woman who called, that he is going backwards, not forward in the city. I think it's a very tough issue for him.
Tom Sherwood, how do you balance the Vincent Gray of the bad hiring?
Tom Brown.
Tom Brown.
Mix up your Tom.
Sherwood. Tom Brown, how do you balance the decisions of the bad hiring decisions of Vincent Gray with the demonstration which seems to have taken those bad hiring decisions for the time being, as Tom Sherwood pointed out, off of the media and working with such an individual?
Well, I tell you, I've been here my whole life, and I share some of the frustrations of the previous caller, a lot of the frustration and embarrassment, quite honestly. And while I don't want to sit here and judge Mayor Gray, I will say that I have real concerns about some of the direction he's taken in his first 4 months in office, and I'm interested to see the consistency begin to line up maybe a little more with some of the things that we all hoped and expected from him. So I am disappointed in him, and I certainly am disappointed as well with Chairman Kwame Brown. I've gotten to know them over a short period of time and I expected a different kind of focus for our city. And so what I'm looking for is, if you're saying one city is where we're going, then I think a council member that has that as their DNA will be a great assistance. And I believe that's a part of what's propelling me to this task, is that in my body of work, whether it's the Workforce Council I co-chair with Councilmember Barry or other entities I work with, it's been all about a collaborative spirit. And I don't think there's ever been a time where I felt like there's been as much segregation in my lifetime in this city building around class, race, and many other things. And I'm hoping to help come together with that leadership that's in place to bring people together.
Dorothy Douglas?
Well, I think just as Brown just mentioned, one city. It's called respect. and you have to have good leadership. If you doesn't have good leadership, that makes it really complicated for others, especially when you're supposed to be setting a good example for our citizens and our young youth that are actually watching us, and doing so, it tells them that it's all right to do wrong. So you can't set that kind of example, and it does show not good etiquette. So we need to respect each other, and we need to also come together to make sure these things don't happen. But when you're older, the kids always say, well, we're following you and you're doing all right. But you need to go back and set back, and the laws that are already in place, those laws need to be acknowledged and be put forth. And the mayor should have really pushed a little bit more and made something be done, not just wait until after the fact. Those things are already set in place to be acknowledged and followed and be enforced. So those it has not, and that's what's happened. So maybe someone needs to come in and oversee, correct what's being. And
that's what you think you'd be able to do?
Yeah, I think that we need to revise, come back again, and come together and collaborate and make sure those laws are enforced. This is what you can't do, A, B, and C. Because when you apply for a job, that's the first thing you're given, the rules and regulations of your jobs another day. So we all need to follow those rules and regulations, and that goes for the mayor and the president as well, and everybody that's in place.
Alan Page.
Yes, I want to address some of the call's points very quickly, particularly the point where she says that D.C. needs to merit the respect to earn statehood without being corrupt. Just to quickly address that point, the statehood issue is, quite frankly, in my mind, a moral issue. We're 600,000 tax-paying Americans. Many of us have fought and died in wars in our nation's history, and I think it's without question we deserve statehood, and we deserve to have a voice in Congress. When other congresspersons in other states are caught red-handed, no one suggests, say for instance, when Jefferson, the congressperson from New Orleans, was caught with $90,000 in his freezer, no one suggested that New Orleans, Louisiana should lose its voice in Congress. So
well,
I think it's...
I would like to join in on this, because I was going to raise this myself, even though I'm not the candidate here. When Marvin Mandel in the 70s went to prison, no one said take away Maryland's voting rights.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Three governors from the state of Illinois in the last 35 years have gone to jail. No one said throw Barack Obama out as a senator there or anything else, or take away their voting rights. And let's not even talk about the state of Louisiana. They seem to still vote despite their troubled history. So the idea that we have to behave and that we have to all get straight A's on our civic politics in order to be included in the classroom of America is offensive. And I don't think Susan meant it as offensive, but we're not Americans by the way we behave. We're Americans because we're citizens of the country. I'm sorry, Alan. Now go ahead with your answer.
Absolutely. I just had to get that. And no disrespect to New Orleans, it's a great city. I was raised there actually. I've been here for 18 years. I was raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, and what happened to my city there in recent years. It might unfortunately be foretelling what will happen here. There, the poor people are washed out by the water.
Well,
here, they'll be washed out by
developers. So I agree with you on the